you can just adapt this to anything. I did a gig the other week, which was a Rubik's Cube focus gig. Instead of the little pot jam, I had a little mini Rubik's Cube. And that was the perfect kind of like opener then. But then I could go into my cube set. It kind of like made sense. But then the mini Rubik's Cube was also a prediction for later in terms of how it had been mixed up. Most recently, I spotted this and I was like, oh, this is perfect, which is a little tub of Nutella. And I kind of saw that. I was like, oh, that's perfect because it's the perfect size. Everybody knows what this is. But also, I kind of thought, how can I adapt my presentation so that it would fit in? And because it's got the word teller at the end, I thought, well, I could do the whole routine and get to the last bit where it's like, oh, that leaves in my hand. And then if it was, I was doing it to a female, I could go to everybody else and go, teller. Like they would know, but then it's kind of like, oh, Nutella. And I do a similar thing as well with I've got a little pot of Heinz ketchup, and I do the same thing. And I get to the final reveal, and I go, that leaves in my hand. And they'd all kind of like look or say something. I go, ketchup. And pause for a second. I say, oh, sorry, that's a Freudian slip. And I then reveal, go, ketchup.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Desert Island Tricks. We have another guest waiting in the wings today. Today's guest is one half of the Refraktor Project. Now, if you haven't come across the Refraktor Project, you've probably seen tricks in the past that require no gimmicks with cubes. But what Kev G and Colin Klaus, who is his partner in that project, have done is really found every single nuance that you could possibly come across and combined it into some wonderful routines, some really wonderful moves. I know they have a very cool move that Colin introduced me to, which is a way to make one side of the cube any color you want from a position in the cube stack, which is really difficult to say without giving anything away. Suffice to say, if you're a fan of Rubik's Cube magic, please go to their website, go check it out. It's the best resource, I believe, on the internet for cube magic. But I've already said his name accidentally, even though you've seen it in the title. So today is Mr. Kev G. How are you doing, Kev?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for that lovely introduction.
And we're really lucky at Alakazam because if you are a member of Unlimited, Kev G and Colin Klaus were very kind to give us a Rubik's Cube course. I think it goes live mid-September. I think it's about the 17th of September the first lesson goes out. But there's a because I learnt to solve the Rubik's Cube years ago now, many years ago. I learnt from, well, originally it was Mark Elsden's DVD many years ago, but then I learnt the Friedrich method from Cube 3, Cube, that one, and I have performed Rubik's Cube magic ever since. But lots of magicians, I certainly remember Dave Loosely sitting in his living room, and I had a Rubik's Cube and I solved it, and he was like, I just don't know how you do that. I said, it's actually really easy. If I can do it, truly anyone can. He was like, no, I don't think I could put the time in. I said, right, what if I could teach you the whole bottom layer right now? And he's like, all right, go on then, we've got time. Within maybe 15 minutes, he wasn't solving just one layer, but both of them. And from that point on, absolutely addicted. He'd learned the rest of it by the next week and just continued it. So your course, though, is really interesting because you go at it from a magician's perspective. So you're trying to cater for a magician learning how to solve a cube as opposed to general public just wanting to do it for fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, myself included, I learned like the beginner's method, and it's one of those things where there's like, oh, now to move on to the next stage, there's all of these extra things to learn. And sometimes you've got to unlearn the things that you've already learned in order to sort of make that step. So what we've done is we've kind of broken that down so that we're teaching you the sort of key things that you need to know to make that step an easy transition rather than it being like a massive step up to get to the next stage. So we teach you like these key things that the other tutorials don't kind of mention because they're not really relevant for people who just want to solve a cube. And essentially, the course is to solve a cube, but whilst you're learning the little things that will help you to make you better at solving the cube and just make your life easier when you're performing with it. You know, I saw the Rubik's Cube as this kind of like impossible task, and it was like, oh, like I'm never going to be able to do that. Until I decided, right, it's going to be my task. I want to learn how to solve this cube. And now I would struggle to try and sort of explain exactly what I'm doing with the cube just because it just becomes muscle memory. And your fingers just do it without you thinking. Like any magic trick you perform thousands, hundreds of times. It's just, you just go into auto drive mode and you can just do it without thinking about it. And it's similar for once you've learned how to do the cube, your hands just do it and you're not really thinking about it. It just happens.
Yep. So if you do want to learn that, check out Alakazam Unlimited. It will be in the courses section. Like I said, I think it's 17th of September is the first episode. I think there are 5 episodes that we have in there. I've watched all of them. Even though I know how to solve the Rubik's Cube, I learnt an extra move in there. So it helps massively. Just that one little move, even if you know how to solve a Rubik's Cube, can really help speed things up. But that being said, I've got no idea what your list is going to be. If it's not all going to be Rubik's Cube, then I've got no idea. So did you find it a hard task or easy?
I found it fairly easy because my list is for going out performing, I've got certain effects that just have never left my set. So the things that I've been performing for years and years and years that just have never found their way out of my set. They've just kind of stayed there. So my list is kind of based around those effects that once I started doing them, I've just never stopped. So there's a bit of a mix of things. There's a couple of Rubik's Cube things in there, but the majority of it is other stuff that maybe you wouldn't necessarily associate with things that I would necessarily do. So
if it's your first time joining us, the idea is that we're about to maroon Kev on his own magical island. When he's there, he's allowed to take 8 tricks, 1 book, and 1 non-magic item that he uses for magic. Particulars like how big the island is, who's there, what audience he has there, all of that is down to Kev. We don't mind. It's basically the list of tricks that he could not live without. And with that being said, Kev, what did you put in your first position?
Okay, so my first effect that I'm taking with me is Bag for Life. And this was published on a DVD called The Unknown by Mark Bendel. And it's one of those effects that is really easy to do. But for me, it's one of the perfect openers for my set. And on the project, there was a routine, like a kind of like a 1 coin routine by Lee Smith. So my kind of opener is based on that. But the key difference is that I don't use a small bag for putting the coins in. So the effect is that you've got 2 coins in a bag. I use a £2 coin and a penny. But the difference is that I have my business card. So the width of the bag that I use is the width of my business card. So when I go and introduce myself to a table or a group, and I'll kind of introduce myself, hey, my name's Kev. Whoever's booked me have asked me to come over and kind of introduce myself. And I take out of my pocket my business card. All right. So I'm showing them just the business card, and you'll see it looks like it's in a bag. So I'm showing this to Jamie at the moment on the screen, and I'll say, oh, these are my details, my name and stuff. But you're probably wondering why my card's in a little plastic bag. Well, it's because it doubles up, so I can carry my change in it. And that's when I reveal that it's got some coins in it. Now, this was perfect during or just after COVID, because when I brought the card out, I'd say, oh, you're probably wondering why it's in a little plastic bag. And I'd pause for a second and go, COVID. And I always got a laugh from people. But essentially, I've got the 2 coins in the bag, and I ask them to choose any coin they want, either the £2 or the penny. And there's kind of inbuilt gags into this, because inevitably, if you ask a female, they're going to say the £2. So you then remove the £2 from the bag, And you can then pass this out. Now, again, because this has got my business card in, this is a great little giveaway. I'm handing them my business card without kind of going, oh, here's my business card, if that makes sense. Because they can check this out and they can find there's no holes in that bag. But then I go into a one coin routine. So I've got the £2, which I've removed from the bag, and I'll say, I'll explain how this works. All right. Can you just hold your hand out like a little table? So I get the participant to hold their hand out. I then take the £2 and I push it through my hand and it lands into their hand. And like that usually gets like a really big gasp, like, oh, what on earth's happened? So then I say, look, I'll show you it again. So I then take the coin a second time. I then tap it and rub it onto their hand and say, this time it just disappears and it jumps down into my pocket. So I go to take it out of my pocket. And I say, but the weird thing is I don't understand how that £2 fits in the bag. And then it's a jumbo £2 coin. So then in their hand, they've got a jumbo £2 coin. And they're kind of like, that's the perfect opener for me because I've introduced myself. I've referred to my business card. I've handed out my business card. I've done a couple of quick moments of magic with the £2 coin. And then I've left them with this surprise jumbo £2 coin that they've gone, oh, where on earth has this come from? So that's going into my first spot on the island.
But I think the gold there is the fact that you're giving them an impossible object with your business card in, because we all want to find ways that they keep the business card. But I love the idea that they get to keep that, and no doubt I can imagine that they're there all night checking that for holes and trying it themselves. I think that's genius, just putting the business card in there.
Yeah, I mean, there was, I just remembered one instance where I performed this, and I'd done the first bit where the £2 had penetrated through the bag, and I handed it out. I said, "Look, check that out. Make sure there's no holes." And inadvertently, when when the £2 had penetrated, I'd actually split the seal at the bottom of the bag. Yeah, so there was a genuine hole in the bag. So then they're looking at this bag and it was like, "Oh yeah, I know how this works. There's a massive hole in the bottom," which was quite funny. But yeah, that's only happened the once, but it was quite funny, and it didn't really affect the rest of the routine, but it made me smile.
Yeah, that's great. How did you get out of it? What was your get out?
Well, I just kind of like made a joke, like, "Oh yeah, you got me," but then I could still go into the rest of the routine because it didn't stop me continuing what I was gonna do. I could still do that bit, so I still had those moments of magic, and it was kind of like that was just like a little gag.
Yeah, it's a great first choice, and it's one that I'll be surprised if it doesn't come up again in future episodes. I'll be very shocked.
Can I add in an honourable mention?
Of course.
So this isn't kind of like I'm not taking this to the island, but kind of like it was a really close call between these two. But the other one that I do use a lot is the 11p trick by James Brown. I know that's been mentioned on the podcast before, which was on the Fancy Pot of Jam DVD. But I use it with, I don't use it with a pot of jam. And what I've found is there's like other items that you can just adapt this to anything. So I did a gig the other week, which was a Rubik's Cube focus gig. So instead of the little pot of jam, I had a little mini Rubik's Cube. And that was the perfect kind of opener. Then I produced this little mini Rubik's Cube, but then I could go into my cube set. It kind of like made sense. But then the mini Rubik's Cube was also a prediction for later in terms of how it had been mixed up. But most recently, I picked this up actually from holiday. I spotted this and I was like, oh, this is perfect, which is a little tub of Nutella. So this is a 25-gram little Nutella. And I kind of saw that. I was like, oh, that's perfect because it's the perfect size. Everybody knows what this is. But also, I kind of thought, how can I adapt my presentation so that it would fit in? And because it's got the word teller at the end, I thought, well, I could do the whole routine and get to the last bit where it's like, oh, that leaves in my hand. And then if I was doing it to a female, I could go to everybody else and go, teller. Like they would know, but then it's kind of like, oh, Nutella. And I do a similar thing as well with I've got a little pot of Heinz ketchup. So this is what I use for a very long time. And I do the same thing, and I get to the final reveal, and I go, that leaves in my hand. And they'd all kind of look or say something. I go, ketchup, and pause for a second. I say, oh, sorry, that's a Freudian slip. And I then reveal, go, ketchup. And it was just sort of a little extra little laugh that I could get in there, but something a little different as well. So I just wanted to add that in because that is another really nice opening effect, which is again super easy to do but super powerful.
It's such a good trick, the 11p trick, or fancy a pot of jam. But yeah, I love the idea of those different final loads. I think that's really funny.
Usually in these gigs, like they're with a group of friends, so they're all kind of like in that zone of like they just want to have a bit of fun, they just want to have a bit of laugh. You know, everybody's on the same kind of like wavelength, and you can pick that up straight away. So those work really well. But just one other thing that I just popped into my head as well that I do sometimes is for another reveal, I'll reveal an orange at the end. But prior to that effect, I'll have done an effect where they've selected a card, and I tear off the corner and eat the corner. And when I eat it, people will look at me going, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, you've never eaten a card before." Oh, it's nice. It tastes a little bit like orange. And then I'll leave that kind of lingering. They'll have the card they're going to look after. Then later on, I'll do the 11p trick, but this time I'll produce an orange. Okay, oh, you can keep that. And then it'll be a little callback saying, "Oh, you've still got your card." And then they'll kind of remember I said, "Oh, it tastes like orange." And they'll go, "Oh, open the orange." And then obviously the corner that matches the card is in the orange. That's, again, just like another way to use that effect to link in with something else.
Yeah, superb. Really, really great ideas and a really strong opening trick and honourable mention. So that brings us on to your second position. So what's in your second place?
So again, I said these were effects that I've done and have never left my set. And this one has been mentioned before by the creator as well, which is Child's Play by Chris Congreaves. And this one for me is perfect because I've got my daughter, she's 10 now, but the thing about this effect is that you can link it into your personal life. And I definitely recommend anybody who has got a young child that you can use this effect. Now, the way that I do this is that I use the executive wallet. So this was put out years ago by World Magic Shop. I think it's based on Roy Roth kind of like design, and it's put out by David Penn. And the nice thing about this is that I can put a really nice big photo of my daughter in there. So you've got this really nice big photo. So what I'll do is when I'm performing, I'll say, my daughter's actually into magic. In fact, I've got a photograph of her here, and I show them a part of the photograph which they can see her face. And I say, "Oh, we came up with a trick together." And I said to her that I'd do this this evening. So it's a card trick. So I take out the deck of cards and I get them to select the card. So somebody selected the card, and then I'll say, "Oh, can you just choose somebody else for me?" So they choose someone else on the table, and I say, "Okay, I'm just going to want you to think of any card you want in the deck." So we don't get the same card randomly. I ask the person what color their card was, and then I'll say, "Right, any card which is a different color." So they choose that card, and I'll say, "You're joking? No way." Oh, this is weird because I don't know if you noticed, but like when I showed you the photograph of my daughter, I didn't show you all of the photograph. Did anybody else meant to see that? Right. And I'll go, "Right, can you open, I don't want to touch this, but can you take the photograph out?" So I'll open my wallet and I'll get someone else to take the photograph out. So they'll take the photograph out, my daughter. The wallet then goes on the table. I'm completely hands-free. And they'll see it's a photograph of my daughter holding a playing card. But I'll point out this isn't a normal playing card. This is one that she actually drew for me. Now, this photo was a few years ago, actually during lockdown, and we decided to make our own deck of cards. But the one that she's holding and like, don't critique her artwork because she's not the best. But I don't tell her that. You'll see it's the four of spades, right? And then I might get a reaction from the person who's initially taken a card. I say, what was the card that you chose? And they'll say, the four of spades. I was like, that's weird. And then I've got this nice position where I've got this kind of like photo pose where I'm holding up the photo and the card. And I say, but the thing is, my daughter didn't just draw one card. She did a whole deck of cards for me. And at the end of the day, she came up to me and says, "Daddy, can you look after my favorite card for me?" You'll never guess what it was. and I'll kind of like pause and look at the person that said the card. And let's say they said the Queen of Hearts, for argument's sake. The Queen of Hearts, yeah, which is weird. And I'll just kind of like leave it there for a second to linger. And I'll go, oh, I can see you're a bit like, skeptical. You probably don't believe me. You think, oh, that's a lovely story, Kev, right? But the thing is, about a week later, we went out to a family do around the grandparents, and she said, "Oh, Daddy, can you show everybody my favorite card?" She gave me, and to be honest, I'd totally forgotten about it. I'd left it at home, and she had a meltdown. There were tears. It was a nightmare. And I felt awful. So I made sure from that day, I always made sure that I kept it safe. Now, inside of my wallet, you'll see that I've actually got this other compartment. And inside that compartment, I've got another little wallet, one of those wallets you might have your like driving license in or whatever. This is where I keep it. Not just any card. Annabelle's favorite card, which is named by my daughter, and I pull it out and then turn it over and say, this is the one that she actually gave me that day, and it's the one that's drawn of the playing card that they just thought of and selected. And I think that is just, for me, it's got those kind of elements where people get to know me a little bit. I've like kind of like shared a true story, and you've got this amazing moment of like, how on earth is that possible? And it's not just the playing card, it's the drawn playing card. And I think, yeah, I just love it, and I've always done it. And people do genuinely say, "Oh, is that actually your daughter?" Do you know what I mean? Sometimes because they think, "Oh, magicians, they just like making up." And I know that, yeah, that's genuinely a true story. Sometimes I even have to get my phone out and show them like photos and stuff. But when they think it's like that's the true story, I think it just makes it way stronger. And then an honourable mention, just to add on to the end of that, is this is a perfect transition then for me to go into extreme burn, which I also have in the same wallet. And I use Steve Rowe's Kids Notes, because this links into the same thing. And I'll go, oh, my daughter doesn't just, she doesn't just make me card tricks, she also makes me money. And these are her £20 notes. So I'll get these out and show her £20 notes. And then again, I can go into like another story, and I was like, oh, my daughter's always asking me to buy this, buy that, I'll buy sweets. So she gave up. So I always said I didn't have any money to do that. So she made me some notes and said, oh, Daddy, can we go shopping now? So I kind of like, all right. So we went to we've got a little corner shop in my village. So I said, oh, we can go to the corner shop and you can get some sweets or whatever. So I went into the corner shop, and I went in there, and I saw the guy behind the counter, and I said, oh, and I kind of like flashed up the notes and said, oh, we're just, gave him a little wink, we're just doing some shopping. But I don't think he sort of caught on, because my daughter, she got the sweets, she put them on the counter, and I went up and I was like, oh, I'm just paying with my money. And the shopkeeper was like deadpan face, oh, I can't accept that. But it was all right, because even though he wasn't, I thought it was a bit out of order, he wasn't playing along. But obviously, because I do magic, it wasn't a problem, because all I had to do was take them, and I just gave them a little flick, and they turned into real £20 notes, and I just paid with those. And that is, extreme burn is an unbelievable effect. But I think having like that link that I can do this sort of independently if I just want a quick trick, but adding it on the end of the previous routine, that kind of just makes sense to me. And I always change them back, because A, it resets them, but also once I've done that, sometimes it's like, because people aren't expecting it, it's too quick, and they're like, what just happened? So then I will say, but like, I don't like to flash all this cash around, because I don't know what any of you are like. Maybe like when I'm going out to my car later, you might follow me or whatever. So I always like to go incognito, and then because I've done like a fairly quick change, I'll say like, this time I'll do it slowly, and this time I'll just change them back super slowly. When they're like they're looking at you this time, and they can't see a thing. And then when you display the notes again, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I love that connection between both of those routines. The idea of having the kids' cards and then into the kids' notes. I think that's, yeah, excellent. Really, really, really good. Even changing it back sort of makes sense as well, because you could use the whole, that those notes mean more to me than money, if I'm entirely honest. And then you can change it back as well. So yeah, I think that's great. That's a really good honourable mention. It's also both tricks that you've chosen so far. You've cleverly routined an extra trick onto the back of it, even when you're talking about the 11p trick with the callback to the orange. So you can sort of see how your worker's mind is putting all of these things together to make a little set. We've got Bag for Life so far and Child's Play. So what's in your third position?
So this one is a packet trick. Now, I don't do loads of packet tricks, but this one, again, is one that I just think it doesn't feel like a packet trick from like a deck of cards, but it's always something, again, I have in the same wallet just for when the moment happens. And that is Nothing But the Truth by Cameron Francis. And the reason why I love this is that and I don't necessarily go out to specifically perform this, but if the moment occurs, then I go straight to this because I think the kicker is amazing. So in my wallet, I say, look, so they've chosen a card. So someone's chosen a card, and I'll say, look, I'm not going to find this card. I've got a lie detector, and I go into my wallet and I pull out this little envelope. I say, it's perfect because this comes flat pack. Just come out in Japan. So let me show you this, and I take it out of the envelope, and I'll say, you can see there's the power. If you can just pop the power button, and they press it, and I'll just make a silly little sound like boop. And I think this was possibly in this tutorial. Again, it sounds really silly that you make this little sound effect where you go boop, but the audience love it. It's like a running joke. They think it's hilarious. So, so with this, you're going to ask some questions. So the first question is, and you can lie or tell the truth, right? It doesn't matter. So you can lie or tell the truth. What's your card? A black card or a red card? And let's say they say it's a black card, and you go through and you see BLACK. And then I'll say, boop, as if it's like that's doing something. It's a silly thing, but and then I give it a second. And at this point, you can also ask other audience members. You can say, what do you reckon? Do you reckon that's a lie or the truth? So you can get people involved in this. And then you turn it over, and it then says true on it, right? And say, okay, so we've established this is a black card, so it could either be like a club or a spade. Don't forget, you can lie or tell the truth. Which one is it? And so this starts to become like a little game then, where they're trying to sort of like they're either lying or telling the truth. You obviously, kind of like what they're doing if they're lying or telling the truth, but it's also a game for everybody else. You can get them to be looking at the person, what do you reckon? What do you reckon? So each time you're going through and you're revealing and you're saying either if it's true or if it's a lie, and the cards say true or lie. Which looks impossible because you're like mixing them each time they say it, and then you get to the final revelation. So let's say it's the Queen of Spades. So you've gone through all these stages where they've lied or tell the truth, and you say, yeah, let me just the Queen of Spades. Let me just verify this. So you get the cards and you're going to spell out Queen of Spades. So QUEENOFSPATES, and you press the button to find the time, put. And then when you turn this card over and it's turned into the Queen of Spades, that gets like a crazy reaction, because every time you've been turning cards over, it just says true or lie. But then you've got the kicker to go like, wait, no, but that's not the crazy thing. The crazy thing is that in fact, you turn over all of the cards and you then show that they are all the Queen of Spades. Every single card in your hand that you've had is the Queen of Spades. And it's like, there's no backtracking there. They're just like, that's a kicker moment. So I think this is the perfect packet trip as a worker, just have in your wallet, because it doesn't look like a deck of cards, and you've got this premise where you're getting lots of people involved. It's a fun routine where they're either telling the truth or lying, and other people are guessing. But you've got those really killer moments in the routine. I love it.
Yeah, it's a superb trick. Any trick to do with lying and telling the truth really does well with an audience. I think it's almost like a modern day misconception that if you're a magician, you have those powers of deduction to detect body language and all of that good stuff. So anything to do with lying and telling the truth, they absolutely love. I think it's just such a commercial routine, isn't it? And I bet that moment changing at the end, oh my God, I bet the reaction to that are phenomenal.
Yeah, I've got video footage of people just like losing it at that moment. They're just like, what has happened? It's really fun.
Great, and a nice diverse mix so far. So we've got a coin trick into a card trick, but then a card trick, but technically a packet trick. So yeah, really good so far. And that takes us to your halfway point in terms of your trick list. What's at number 4?
So at number 4 is Lolly Hero by Steve Rowe. And I love this just because it's completely different from anything else. You know, it's not a card trick, it's not a coin trick, it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's a lolly trick. And you know, again, honourable mention to Kieran Johnson's Lollipop production, which is on his Chaotic DVD, which is fantastic. So you light a bit of paper in your hand and pop. You've got a lollipop which you can give out to people. So that's kind of like a nice sort of like intro. And then I love to go into Lolly Hero now. I use the version that requires some preparation. So I'm genuinely eating the lolly. And I think that's the best way to do it. And there's sometimes I might use something like DFB to get the person selected, or I might use some top trumps cards or something like that, depending on who it is or who I'm doing to. But the moment where they've made that selection, so let's say for example it's Batman, and you don't know that, and you produced a lolly, and you can make this little gag of and this is how like Steve presents it, that you've got this like lolly man, and you can make a little cape with the wrapping, and you know it's just it's another fun little quirky thing you're doing, like it's a joke, and then all the moment goes on. So I'll say something, oh, you've heard like of sleight of hand, right? But have you heard of sleight of teeth? And they'll be like, what are you going on about? I say, oh, my dentist hates me doing this, but I'm going to do this for you. And you put the lolly in your mouth, and the lovely bit is you can, at various points, you can take the lolly out, and you can see there's like chunks of the lolly that have started to like come away, that are disappearing, and you're genuinely like eating this in your mouth, and you can take your time, and then you can sort of like build this up. People are thinking like, what is he doing? What's going on? And it's like, oh, what was the superhero you're thinking of? They say Batman, for example, and you pull that lolly out of your mouth and show that lolly is now Batman's head. I think that is they people just lose it with that. They look at it going, what? And you're spinning it and showing it. Again, it's another great photo moment where you're here displaying that lolly. And yeah, I think it's great. And the perfect thing is no one wants to, no one's going to kind of like try and take it off your touch because it's been in your mouth. No one, you know. So Lolly Hero, I love that effect. I think it's genius thinking by Steve. I love all Steve's stuff. He's a great thinker, and yeah, Lolly Hero is definitely going with me.
It's definitely a worker. There's lots and lots of professionals that are out working that routine.
And I think if you've got the set, and I should have mentioned this before, is that I would always just say, oh, name a superhero, just to see, because if you get that hit, then you know you're done. And they're done, so you're already really far ahead. So yeah, it's a great trick.
So I used to get if there was a group of kids on a table, like 3 or 4 of them, I would say, right, you guys know who superheroes are, right? After 3, call out your favorite superhero. 1, 2, 3, and it gave me the opportunity to mix and match who I was taking out. 9 times out of 10, at least 2 of them would say one of the superheroes I wanted them to say. So then I would go to an adult and I would say, right, from one of those 2, which one do you want to pick? Of course, at that point, it doesn't matter because I've got one in each pocket. I'm loaded for any eventuality. So there are lots of really clever ways around doing it.
Yeah, and I've got I've got another effect that I do where I have this is more of like a stage thing, but I have broken up Lego that I pour into a bag, and then I give it a shake, and I tip out a Lego model. Now, when I perform that, I will always look for whoever the oldest person is that I can see, and I'll say to them, "Oh, can you name a superhero?" And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say the same superhero, which is the one that I'm ready to perform with. And if you get that, and I do this at my lectures as well, and every single time they've said the person that I want them to say, and it's kind of it makes it just seem so much more impossible. I think so. Yeah.
When I perform at gigs, I look at effects that tick these 3 boxes. Is it super strong and powerful? Yes. Will it last with your spectators for a lifetime? Absolutely. And does it leave them with a souvenir that perfectly captures the moment of magic? If that all sounds exactly what you're after, look no further than the liquid forks. These forks have been custom designed to be able to bend right in front of your spectators' eyes. It's so easy to perform, it's so visual, and trust me, they will honestly keep this impossible object because they've seen it morph in front of their eyes. It literally does the impossible. Not only that, Liquid Forks comes with 50 of these forks in each pack, and it comes with the full Liquid Forks routine taught by the world famous David Penn. Not only that, we have a subscription service. If you guys love these forks and you get through them at your gigs, we now offer a monthly subscription where you get sent a box through every single month at a 10% reduced fee. Like I said, you guys are going to be loving these. You're going to be performing them every chance you can. Trust me, the reactions are second to none. So guys, head over to alakazam.co.uk, pick up a set of liquid forks. You will not regret it. Easy to do. Leaves them with a killer souvenir. And to be honest with you, it's not cards, it's not coins, it's not mentalism. It's something beyond belief. Check it out now, guys, the liquid forks.
Yeah, it's great. Really good choice. And again, another very different routine so far. So we've got sort of one of everything going on at the moment. But it does take us over your halfway point. So what's in your 5th position?
So my 5th position effect is Remaxed Isolation by Kieran Johnson, which is the card in a block of ice. So a signed card in a block of ice. And yeah, it's just brilliant. I think like for a card to an impossible location, have it in a block of ice, and the fact that you're producing a block of ice, it's like where's it coming from? B, how is it not melted? C, how has the card got in there? And how is it my signed card that I signed a few seconds earlier? I think all of those things just make it a really killer kind of like closing card effect. If you're doing like a card set or doing some card tricks, I think it's brilliant. And I was first kind of like introduced to Kieran is when he released To the Max, which was his first ice effect, which again I did for years, was absolutely brilliant, which is production of a block of ice, which is amazing. And then I saw he was releasing this card in ice, and I think I was genuinely the first person to purchase it off him because he listed it on his website, and I was like, I'm having it straight away. And it was I think it was £150, I think, initially when he first kind of like put it for sale, and it was obviously a lot of money. I didn't know anything about it, but I had To the Max and I love that, and I was like, I need this in my life. Because I was one of the first people to buy it, I think Kieran actually came to my house as well. So he got on a train, came to my house, and kind of gave me a little one-on-one session and talked through it and showed me how it worked and whatnot, which was very generous of him. But it was, yeah, it's a brilliant effect. Again, it takes a little bit of prep, but I think it's definitely worth it.
Is it one that you just use at like a top table or for a special person?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it multiple times, and I have done it multiple times before, but now it's usually one that I'll just save for that special table or one group. Just maybe because over the years, out of laziness, just not wanting to have loads ready to go. Um, but I think it is one of those special things that you don't want to you don't want to be doing it all the time, because I think that might lose a little bit of it. Whereas you've done it to one table and they're spread. Yeah, I saw the magician. He came over and he put my card was in a sealed block of ice I had to smash open. I think that that was sort of like generate stories. Oh, I didn't see that one. So yeah, yeah, I love it.
I think it has to be a spontaneous moment as well. I think if it feels too planned, it would feel more feasible, if that makes sense. I think it's the randomness of the situation and the timing which will make that feel more magical.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I like. I like having effects where that they feel random. So certain things where it was just like, oh, this is the perfect moment to do this, and it always works out really well.
Another great choice, and that leads us into your sixth, position. What's in your sixth position?
So in my sixth position, because I do a lot of weddings, so a lot of the gigs I do are weddings. So I'll have a sort of a set, a wedding set that I'll do for the wedding couple, and that consists of numerous different things. But I'm just picking out one which I think has a certain elements that just makes it perfect, which is Linko by Ben Williams. And Linko by Ben Williams is a polo effect. And when I go up to the wedding couple, I say that I've brought you a few little gifts. Nothing too exciting. Don't get too excited. But I've brought you a pack of polos. Not that I think that you need to freshen up your breast or anything, but you can, if you want, you can have one to eat. But because polos, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but polos are kind of they rep their rings. And today you've exchanged rings, and also like polos. Well, when they're in the packet, they've got something missing. They've got a hole in them, right? So look, I'm going to get you to take a polo. So I open the packet of polos. So they take a polo each. And I want you to think back to that moment where you first set eyes on each other and there was that spark. And I'm going to try and recreate this spark now. I'm going to have to do this artificially. So what we'll do is I've got this little bit of paper. I'm going to get you to put your polos in the paper. So they put it in. I wrap it up. And then I say, okay, we're just going to need a lighter. And I just mentioned before I do this, I usually go and find a clean wine glass. And I upturn the wine glass so it makes like an elevated little stage, which again, everyone can see everything. And then I put the bundle with the polos on top of the wine glass. I then get a lighter, light the paper. There's this massive flash of fire, which again is perfect if you've got people taking photos, or the photographer, or even just everybody else around. They see this flash of light, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And then you look back down at the polos, and the polos are linked together on top of the wine glass. So you've got that first like kind of moment, like how on earth has that happened? They've linked together. But then you call back to the packet of polos that you've just taken the polos from and say, but check this out, because if the polos have linked together like this, and you take the packet of polos and you just run your thumb over the first O in polo and you visually move that O down, and that second O then links to the last O in the polo, and you've then got this packet of polos where they've linked on the polo pack as well. And I think that is just, it's just a really, really nice effect. You've got that kind of like sentimental thing where you're talking about the rings and the fact that they exchanged them, and they've come together as kind of like one. And then I take the polos that I've just physically linked together, and I've got like a little ring box that I put them in. So that's a nice little giveaway. I let them keep the packet of the polos that I've linked as well. And yeah, I just love that effect. I just think it's really nice. It's a little bit different, but also links into the whole wedding theme and the couple as well.
Yep, another really, really strong choice. And I love the idea of the upturned glass and having it sort of the attention sort of put on the glass for that magic moment. I've never seen it done like that. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe that might have been a Steve Rowe. He might have mentioned that to me, and maybe, I don't know if I'm giving credit, but it probably was him, because I speak to him a lot, and that's kind of a little thing he might have said. But another little honourable mention to go with that is the broken and restored glass. So before I go in, yeah, it's James just showing me one on screen, and I was showing him one as well. This is brilliant, because when I go up, that'll be when I pick up the glass and say, "Oh, can I use this?" Or bring it, and the glass will break. It'll make like a thud on the table. Again, that's like a really nice attention getter. And people are like looking, thinking, "Oh, Leo, he's just come to the table. He's just about to start, and he's already breaking stuff." And then the fact that you go, "Oh, hold on a second," and you fix the glass. Again, it's just one of those little "Hold on, what just happened" moments where people are going, "What? Hang on a minute, that just broken," and now it's a bit." But I don't really make much of it. It's just kind of like one of those incidental moments that just happens, and as a magician, you fix it and then you carry on. But it's just a really nice little bit of business.
Yeah, the first time I saw that was I was filming for a friend of mine, Dean Levy, and he uses that. And watching the reactions from people was phenomenal. As soon as he walked away from the table, you would see people still picking up the glass and checking the bottom of it. It's such a lovely moment. It's really, really nice. I urge anyone to check it out, or find someone who performs it and watch them do it, because it's just a lovely moment. It really is. But that does bring us on to your number 7. So what's in your 7th position?
So I know we've not had any cube related stuff so far. So number 7 is going to be the first effect that I released to the Magic community, which is cube cards. And the way that I perform this, so originally I released cube cards, which consisted of 24 mixed Rubik's Cube cards, and then there was an add-on set which was called Remixed, which was slightly different, but you didn't really have to learn anything new. But I use both of those together when I perform it. So I've essentially got like a full deck of cards. So the way that I do this is that I'll have a Rubik's Cube, and I'll introduce the Rubik's Cube. I'll ask, "Oh, can anybody solve the cube?" And I say, well, every year, I don't know if you know this, but there's competitions where people go to solve the cube. And I don't know if you know this, but as well as just having like competitions to solve the cube, there's also people who can do it like one-handed, or they do it from memory blindfolded, and there's even people that do it with their feet. But there's one competition that I was particularly drawn to, which was called Re-Scramble. And the idea is that you, rather than getting to a solved Rubik's Cube, you would get into a random mix of a Rubik's Cube. So there's that additional layer of challenge that it's difficult to practice. And I actually picked up, these were cards which were from the Sao Paulo competition in Brazil. And these were challenge cards. And in each of these cards, you'll see that there's a different mix of a Rubik's Cube. And I'll give this deck out and say, "Look, you can either look through them if you want and pick one out, or you can just randomly choose one. I don't mind, but just make sure that I don't see, and take that card out, either put it against your chest or on the table, and just hand me back the rest of the cards." So they hand me back the rest of the cards, and then I'll say, "Okay, what I want you to do is to have a look at that, And what I like to do is I'd like you to memorize that card. All right. Now, this is perfect misdirection. Just saying that line, oh, I want you to memorize that card, because they will be like, I'd be like, oh, I can't do that. Other people will probably laugh on the table thinking, oh, he can't do that. Or he'll be staring at it, trying to actually do it. Either way, it gives you a perfect moment of misdirection. So they then look at that and say, okay, look, I know that's too difficult, but that's going to be my challenge. So what I would like you to do in a second is I'm going to get you to turn that card around so I can see it. And I just want you to count in your head, I don't know, 5 seconds, because that'll be more of a challenge to me. And then put that card face down so I can't see. My challenge is to memorize the pattern on the card and see how close I can get my cube to the card. Okay, cool. So then they turn over the card. I look at it. Now, sometimes people will go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then put it face down. They'll be like really, really quick. But it doesn't really matter because you don't need any more time. But if you do, you go, hold on, that was a bit too fast. I want you to count like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and they can show you again. So they've turned the card face down. I then pick up the cube and I start mixing the cube. And then I'll like pause and have a look and mix it and go, I think I'm there. And then I'll ask for the card back. I'll turn it around with the cube in my hand. And again, you've got this like really nice framing around you where you've got it holding up the cube, you've got holding up the card, and they can see that that card matches the mixed cube perfectly. And what's nice is that they kind of think that's the effect. All right, that's the end of the trick. So I'll then put the cube down, I'll take the card, and I'll say, but like you genuinely could have chose any of these cards, right? But you chose this one with this specific mix. So then I'll pick up this card, and I'll say, like, if you just look at this cube which is on the card, and I'll give it a little wave, you'll see it just solves, and the cube on the card visually solves. Okay, and I'll put that down on the table. And again, you can do this in any order you want. But then I'll say, but like if the card's solved, if I take the cube and if I just give that a little wave, you'll see that also solves. But if the card's solved and the cube solved, and at this moment it's really nice because what you can do with a card is you can actually just like poke it inside of the cube. So on the table, you've got the cube with the card sticking out of it. I think it looks quite nice. But then you say, but you chose from any of these cards. Now, if the cube's solved and the card's solved, surely all of the cards you chose from the beginning are all solved, and you can show all of these cards or spread them out on the table. And again, you've got that other sort of like other kicker where another bit of magic's happened and all the cards have now changed. I think it's just a really nice a nice way to do a cube effect that isn't just, oh, look at me, I'm just solving the cube. You've got kind of like a reason, but then you've got these additional moments of magic that are unexpected, which is why I really love it, and I still do it today. And it's one of the effects which I think a lot of workers do, just because it's not difficult and it allows you to give a story and give you those moments of magic.
Yeah, I'm going to big you up here and say that I was probably one of the early adopters of this routine when you first brought it out. And I spoke to Colin Klaus about this, actually. I think it was either this year or last year. I had the original cards, and I loved that they were getting a little bit aged and looking a little bit more authentic, like I'd had them for years and I'd used them for a long time. But I used them so much, they were so warped and they were so damaged from quite literally hundreds and hundreds, if not more, at restaurants, weddings. It goes down so well. I even had to do the close-up shows at the Magic Circle pre-COVID, and I did a Rubik's Cube act, and I had that there. It really is such a wonderful routine. It's such a great trick. The cards make absolute sense. It's the perfect structure for a 5-6 minute Rubik's Cube act. You can put more things in there if you want. It's perfect for restaurants. It looks a little bit different. I think it just has everything. I think it's such a wonderful trick.
Thanks. Yeah, it's yeah, as I say, it's one of the ones that are sort of close to my heart because it's like the first one that first effect that I published to the Magic community. And it's also how I met Colin Klaus because he also purchased cue cards, and then I happened to be at the Magic Circle, which I don't get down to very much. And he came over and kind of introduced himself and said that he got it, and that's how we sort of started chatting and kind of sort of the seed of our relationship, really.
Great, excellent choice. But that brings us on to your last item. So what's in your final position?
So my final position is the Refraktor Project. Again, this is another of my own releases, but with my partner in crime, Colin Klaus, who I just mentioned. And the reason why I'm putting Refraktor in now, obviously, there's a ton of different routines within the Refraktor Project, but the core of it is being able to perform loads of routines and magic with a single Rubik's Cube. So the last thing I want to be doing, especially close up, is taking multiple cubes with me to a gig to be able to do stuff. I want the least amount possible that I've got to take. So just by taking one single Rubik's Cube and not having anything else and being able to do a ton, like I could just do a whole gig doing different stuff just with a single Rubik's Cube. And I think that's the beauty of it. So, yeah, and I know you're probably going to ask me, oh, can you narrow it down to a certain routine or a certain effect? I'm sure you are, but I think, yeah, just the Refraktor Project. I think anybody who wants to do cube magic, you know, I know I'm biased, but I think that's definitely where, like, the perfect starting point if you want to get away from just going, oh, here's a mixed cube, or now it's solved. Now you can do that gimmickless, but there's a lot of gimmicks. Problem for me is that at a close-up gig, people are going to go, I want to have a look at that cube, right? They're going to want to, and if you're going, oh no, you can't see it, they're just going to go, oh, it's a trick cube. And they might think that anyway, but I will go, you know, genuinely, you can take it, have a look at it. I'll even like sort of like pop the center caps on, saying, look, there's no tricky buttons or anything. You can mix it up. And I think just having a normal cube allows you to be able to do that. Whereas if you've got something else that's required to do it, I think that might get you a little bit stuck on some occasions. So I'm going for the Refraktor Project by myself and Colin Klaus.
So you've listened to enough of these, yeah. So, but I'm going to give you sort of a leeway. So there are quite a few versions of volumes of the Refraktor Project out now. So if you could take one that you would recommend to someone starting out, and one that's your personal favourite, so which ones would you put there?
So I reckon for anybody starting out, if somebody's kind of wants to dip their toe into the water and they want to get into cube magic and they don't really know where to start, I would wholeheartedly recommend Rotator B, and that's the B stands for beginner. And basically what we did is there was lots of people saying, oh, you know, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do. And with the Refraktor Project, we'll probably say start with volume 1, but they're kind of like their own independent things at the same time. So what we did is we thought, well, what are some of like the core key techniques or solves or things that would be perfect for beginners to learn that would allow them to also perform some easy routines that are still really kind of like impactful and that you would go out and work. And that's kind of what Rotator B is. So it's got on there some it's got on like the 446 mix, which you mentioned earlier. It's got the cube card stack. It's got ways to false mixes and ways to like force things. And it's got a few solves on there as well, which are easy to do. And then there's some routines as well. So it's kind of like the best bits that we've chosen that would be most suited for beginners. So definitely Rotator B if you want to start doing some gimmickless cube magic. And then for other volumes, it's really, really difficult because each volume is kind of like its own its own thing. If I was pushed for one, I would probably say volume one, because that was kind of like the where it started and where we came up with the 4-4-6 mix, and then the routine that goes with that. But then I'm just going to quickly mention some bits and other volumes. But then volume two is the one which brings in the principle of the three-sided solve. Now, Sam Huang, Crazy Sam, has recently released a project called Solve, his Encyclopedia of Solves. Now, he learned the three-sided solve from Refraktor, and that's what like half of the solves are based on. And he's just added a few of the elements that have kind of make them look like different. They're really cool. But he learned it from volume two. So that's a really cool technique. And I think with Refraktor is the fact that you could start doing a routine, let's say on volume one, but then you could go into a routine from volume two, or you could link them together. But I think volume three is the one which has got on the matching effects. Now, I love matching effects because that's what I would close a routine on. So I'd do a routine, and then my final effect would be a matching effect. So the matching effect or the routine is called Parallel Minds on volume three, and that's with a single cube. So what's the nice thing about this is that you don't have to have a second cube that you're going to match it with. And what I found is that makes absolutely no difference. And the fact that the audience don't mix up the cube, again, it doesn't make any difference, because with the matching effect on volume three, you mix the cube and you just say, right, just say stop whenever you want. So they say stop whenever they want, doesn't matter. And then I'll place it in their hand, and we're all good to go. And even if they say they want to add some more moves, it doesn't matter. Now, the reveal is the bit that I enjoy the most. And again, you could do this in a multitude of ways. So you could have like a mini Rubik's Cube, as I mentioned earlier. If I started with like the 11p trick and I had a little mini Rubik's Cube, it could be a callback and I could match it with that. But my personal favorite is the socks reveal. And I have some specially printed socks which have got Rubik's Cubes printed on them. So the way that I present this is that I'll just mix the cube, say stop whenever you want, perfect, and I'll then talk about, do you know how many different combinations there are have a Rubik's Cube mix? And they'll probably say no. So then I'll talk about, well, to like put it in some kind of context, that every different combination of Rubik's Cube, you can cover the world in Rubik's Cubes, 273 layers high. It's kind of like a mind-boggling amount. It's crazy, right? But we've stopped on this mix, right? Now, the chances of this ever existing since the start of time are pretty remote. And if we have a look at this, you'll see that it's kind of different colors. Hold on a minute. No way. This is my favorite mix of the Rubik's Cube. So they'll go, oh, of course it is, Kev, right? And I'll go, no, it is. I can prove it, because before I came this evening, I was getting ready. And I went over, and next to my bed, I've got a little chest of drawers, and I opened the drawer, right? Guess what's in the drawer? And they'll always say Rubik's Cube, right? They'll always say that. I'll go, no, I'm not a weirdo. It's my socks drawer. It's where I keep my socks. What? And but that always gets a really good laugh, and that kind of like happened by accident, I'm sure, at one point, and then that just stayed in the routine. I say, no, it's my socks drawer. So I put on my favorite socks, and then they're starting to go, all right. And I go, look, I'll show you. And this is then when I know sometimes if there's an opportunity where I can stand on a chair or put my foot on a table or whatever, I'll do that. So it's like elevated, but then I can slowly pull my trouser leg up, take the cube, and they can see that it matches the sock perfectly on three sides, right? And what I found is that, and on the other side, I've got the other three sides. So at that moment, they're like, wow, that's crazy. And I go, oh, but you're probably thinking, oh, that's only 3 sides of the cube, Kev. What about the other 3 sides? That's why I had the other 3 sides printed on the other side of the sock. And then I'll show and turn the cube and show that they all match as well. And that, again, that's just kind of like you get that elevated kicker that even though it doesn't make any difference that you've got the other 3 sides, they're just like, what? And it's just a really fun kind of like quirky thing that I love doing. I haven't got to carry anything on me because it's just they're on my feet the whole time at the gig. And it's just kind of like an anytime, anywhere cube match, which is just perfect. And then I can then go into my solve called dispersion, which is a slow motion solve of the cube. So I might have already performed some kind of like visual solves, but now I'm going to do a slow motion where I get them to have a look at the cube, and there's like these little Tetris like pieces that they can see. So there's like 3 little blue bits. And what I'll do is I go, okay, but if you just focus on the 3 little blue bits, now when I turn the cube, you'll see that it turns into a square. And they'll be like, what? And then on this side, I say, oh, look, I'll show you again. See there's 2 little red bits. Look, when I turn the cube, you'll see I'll get a line. So now I've got a square and now I've got a line. Guess what happens on this side? And they'll come up with loads of different stuff. And then I'll turn it off and go, oh, this is where I get a square and a line. And when I get a square line on this side, I also get one on this side. And now there's just squares and lines appearing on each side of the cube. Or apart from this side where there's the 2 lines, that tells me I'm really close to getting to a solved cube, which looks like that. And then I've solved the cube. It's come round full circle. I'm reset to go again into whatever I want. And they've had loads of kind of things that they can't comprehend. And I just love it.
Yeah, it's a really, really good choice. And looking at your list now, we've had coins, cards, a packet trick, lollies, ice, linking mints, and Rubik's Cube. So it just shows how diverse your set list really must be. And I bet you always have a great variety of publicity shots from photographers as well, all the way through.
Yeah, which is nice because I think I always look at photos thinking, oh, that looks too similar. It's like the same thing. So to have that like variety, I think again that makes you stand out, especially when someone's looking, they're going, oh, because the question is like whenever someone's thinking about booking you, or they might even verbally say, oh, like, what sort is it? Just cards you do? So that's what they've got in their head. Oh, a magician card. Or is it just card stuff you do? I go, oh no, well actually I do stuff with this, and this. They can look at my photos and they see this like variety of different things. And I think again that puts you kind of like ahead of thinking, oh, they do a range of different stuff rather than just they're just going around doing a few card tricks.
Yeah, very, very true. And it brings us to your 2 curveball items. So you've had 8 for your tricks, but you're only allowed 1 each of these. So if you were to take a book, which book would you take?
So these are the 2 hardest things. And the book is one that I read a long time ago, and I actually took it on holiday with me recently just to reread it, just to like double check and make sure, oh, is this the book that I want to choose? And I definitely think that this is the one that I'm going with, which is David Stone's Close Up, The Real Secrets of Magic. And anybody who wants to do close-up magic or is currently still doing close-up magic, I think this just covers everything. It's got everything in there that you could possibly think of wanting to know in relation to close-up. There's no tricks in here. It's just about how like you approach tables, about different situations and like what you do, about bookings, if you want to do restaurants, like does your sort of like opening effects, the types of effects, all of that stuff is contained in this book. So it's a little bit of a Bible for close-up workers, I think, but also the way that it's written, he's a really funny guy. Anyway, like he's one of my favorite magicians to watch and see perform, and his lectures are hilarious. And that goes like sort of feeds into the book as well. You can tell from his writing style, he injects that personality and that humor into the way that he writes it, and it's a really enjoyable read.
He also, years ago, I'm not sure if they're still available, he had a DVD set I think it was one or two
Yes,
called The Real Secrets of Magic. And one of
that's right.
those routines I still do all of these years later because it was so good. And I remember it was filmed in like a white studio with a makeshift restaurant. And it was
Mm.
just him doing his routines. And it was so funny, so clever. The routines were really smart. And the routine that I took from that DVD set was I use now as an alternate to, it's almost like an alternate to an Omni deck. So if I didn't have my Omni deck on me, that's the closer of my card set that I would use. But he's great, and that's a great choice of book, and it's massive as well. There's a lot of information in there.
Yeah, it's thick, but it's kind of like a really nice, convenient sort of sized book as well, where it's like not too sort of like cumbersome. Um, but really funny, as I said, those DVDs which kind of link closely to the contents in the book are fantastic as well, and they're kind of. I thought, I need to dig those out again and give them another sort of rewatch because again, they've got that humor injected in them and that sort of that boy play with the audience and what he's doing and just kind of like taking the mick out of everything as well, which is really fun.
Good choice, and that brings us on to your item. So what's your non-magic item that you'd use for magic?
So this has got to be like the hardest one, and the reason why I say it because you could I think I could go for like an easy choice like a mobile phone or something like that. Um, But what's been stuck in my head that I can't shift after listening to one of the previous items someone said, and I'm like, oh, that's just such a good thing, and I haven't been able to top it. I haven't been able to think of something that I'd rather take. And I know it was kind of a one of those items that you were kind of like, oh, I'll let them have it, which was Liam Montier's choice, which was the snooker table. And when he said that, I was like, oh, like that. For me, that would be the perfect thing. Now, in terms of magic, you can do there's lots of effects where you can do productions of snooker balls, or even like the effects where you can spread cards around the table and you hit a white ball and it lands on a card, and you could. But I think if I was going to be on a desert island, I would want something that was going to like occupy my time, and I think a snooker table I could spend absolutely hours on that because it's one of those things where you're always constantly learning, and it's a skill based thing as well, isn't it? This one of those things where you could just spend your lifetime playing it, and you'd never reach like perfection, like a lot of things. But I think the snooker table I would just spend hours and hours and hours just by myself on my own, practicing shots, fighting balls, and I just enjoy that. Aside from the magic, so I felt like I couldn't really choose the same thing as Liam, but I couldn't top it.
Okay, I'll let you have that. Here's a trick idea for you then. What if, since you got your Rubik's Cube there, what if you get the participant to hit the balls into a random formation, but that formation ends up being the color pattern from the Rubik's
Nice.
Cube, which would be really
I
cool.
love that. That is, yeah, I love that. Well, it's not an orange. It's not an orange ball, but we'll have to sidestep that from being on the pattern that we would predict. But I'm sure I can make that work.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great choice and great list overall. Probably one of the most diverse that we've had. Every single trick has its own place and its own theme. And I love how you've linked different routines together as well to sort of show how you do it in performance, which is great. But if people want to find out more about you, about the Refraktor Project, where can they go?
So if you want to find out more about the Refraktor Project, you can head over to either Rubik's Cube Magician.co.uk. And if that's a bit too much of a mouthful, we've also got refraktor.co.uk, refractor being spelt with a K and not a C, as in like light refraction. So refractor with a K. You'll find us there. Or if you just Google Kev G, Colin Klaus, I'm sure it will pop up. And then I've also got my own sort of little online store called secretstuff.uk, which has got stuff that I lecture and other various items that people can check out. And you can find me on Facebook, Kev Gregson. Feel free to drop me a message. And if you want to have a chat, I'm always open to having conversations about magic.
And if people want to book you for a lecture, where can they go for that?
So again, they can either contact me directly or on my website, secretstuff.uk. There is a contact form on there. That's a pretty new website, so I've set up, but they can contact me via that. And I'd love to do a lecture for your club, though I am a little bit restricted in terms of when I can do the lectures due to my kind of like full-time job as a teacher, which kind of restricts me a little bit of how far I can travel and where I can go. But if you can get me in during one of my school holidays, that would be ideal.
Amazing. So there you go. Book Kev for your club. I'm sure it'll be a really, really, really interesting lecture if you have to go by his list, as we've seen here. But thank you again, Kev. Thank you for giving us your time and giving us your list.
It's been a pleasure. I've loved it. I've loved listening to every single episode. Thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
We've also got we've got Colin booked in as well. So,
fantastic.
Dependent on when these go out, go seek out Colin Klaus's, because Colin's not only just a lovely person, but he's a very, very skilled performer and always has really good insight as well. So do go check that out. But again, thank you very much, Kev.
Pleasure.
Also, don't forget that Kev G and Colin Klaus's course on Rubik's Cube solving for magicians is on Unlimited, or certainly will be mid-September, depending on when this episode goes out, because we are recording these a little bit in advance. And again, please, if you haven't had a chance, whichever platform you are listening to this on, please leave it a review. Let the guests know which your favourite was. Let us know what you enjoy about it. If you want something added, let us know. Also, leave us a review on whatever platform you're on. And with that being said, we will hear from you next week on another episode of Desert Island Tricks. Goodbye.
Hello guys, I'm here to talk to you about Alakazam Unlimited. This is the best streaming platform in the world, I'm telling you now. With Alakazam Unlimited, you get access to over 150 magic routines. This is video performances and explanations. We have card magic, coin magic, kids magic, rope magic, mentalism, stage, parlor, impromptu. We've got you covered. All of this for the low price of just £4.99 a month. And you can cancel at any time. Perfect if you've got commitment issues. Yes, I'm talking to you. Guys, you are going to absolutely love it. If you haven't joined the platform already, what the heck are you doing? Alakazam Unlimited is a streaming platform that you need to be a part of. Not only that, there is also exclusive content only available on the platform. Check out now, alakazam.co.uk. Cheers.